Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The fluorescent lights of the Dallas ER flickered faintly above me as I gritted my teeth through the pain pulsing up my broken arm. I could still hear the pop it made when I hit the concrete outside the office, a sick, wet crack that made my stomach turn. My phone was already slick with sweat as I tried calling Ashley again. She answered, finally. Loud music pounded in the background. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Ash, I said, voice tight. I need you to come pick me up. I'm in the ER. I think my arm's broken. What? She cut in, her tone sharp with annoyance. Michael, are you kidding? I'm at Courtney's bachelorette party. You knew this was happening tonight. I know. I whispered, blinking through the pain. But I didn't plan on falling and snapping my arm in half. So call an Uber, Michael, she snapped. I'm 2 drinks in and surrounded by bridesmaids. I'm not leaving. My heart sank. You can't just. Ashley, I'm in a hospital, I said, voice low but shaking. This isn't about a ride. I'm asking you to be here. She laughed, not in a funny way. Don't make this dramatic. You're a grown man, figure it out. I'm not dropping everything just because you tripped over yourself. That laugh. I'll never forget how it sounded. Cold. Disconnected. Like I was just some stranger asking a favor. Is this really who you are now? I asked, stunned. I'm in pain, and you won't even come check on me. Oh, don't guilt me. It's not my fault you can't walk straight, she shot back. You always need me to play the nurse, the cheerleader. What next? Want me to wipe your tears too? The line went quiet. Not because she hung up, because I did. My hand trembled, not from pain, but from something deeper. Something ugly and rising. Disbelief, maybe. Rage was sitting just beneath my ribs, crawling its way out. I stared at the cracked screen of my phone for a second, then scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I hadn't said out loud in months. Jessica. She picked up on the second ring. Mike, she said, voice laced with concern. It's late, are you okay? I'm at Baylor. You are? I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. I broke my arm. Can you come get me? She didn't hesitate. I'm on my way. I exhaled, my head leaning back against the cold wall. This wasn't how I expected the night to go, but maybe it was exactly the wake-up call I'd been ignoring. Because my marriage didn't break tonight. It had been breaking long before this. It was nearly midnight when Jessica's headlights cut through the hospital parking lot like a warm promise. Her familiar old Jeep rolled up beside the curb, engine humming low. She swung open the door before she'd even fully parked. There you are, she breathed, rushing out. God, Michael, look at you. I tried to force a grin. Yeah, sorry for the late-night drama. Guess I'm still clumsy. Jessica's eyes narrowed as she took in the sling the nurse had wrapped around my arm, the wince I didn't bother hiding. She didn't say anything right away, just moved to my good side and helped me stand. Her hand went gently to the small of my back, guiding me to the passenger door. You shouldn't be walking on your own. Come on. I slid into the seat with a hiss of pain. She waited until I was settled before jogging around and hopping into the driver's seat. You sure you're okay? She asked, glancing over as she buckled in. Her voice had that soft edge, caring, but measured. She always had a way of making concern feel like comfort, not pity. I looked straight ahead. Broken in 2 places. Said I was lucky it wasn't a full fracture through the elbow. Jessica clicked her tongue. Michael, yeah. We pulled out of the lot in silence for a moment. The streets were nearly empty. Dallas at midnight had a strange kind of peace. Just the whisper of tires against pavement, neon signs blinking soft and slow above shuttered gas stations and darkened diners. Then Jessica spoke. Where is she? I didn't answer right away. She's out, I muttered. At a party. Jessica turned her head sharply. A party? Are you serious? Bachelorette party. She was already there when I called. Said she couldn't leave. Jessica barked out a bitter laugh. Couldn't or wouldn't. I turned to her. Does it matter? It does, she snapped. Because that wasn't just a sprain or a paper cut, Mike. You were in the hospital. She told me to figure it out. Jessica's hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles whitening. That's not just selfish. That's infantile. Cruel. She didn't even ask what happened. I paused. Didn't ask if I was okay. She was more upset about me calling than about the actual fall. Jessica shook her head slowly, biting her lip like she was holding back more than she was saying. I finally looked over at her. You're thinking it too, aren't you? What? That this marriage is off. She was quiet for a few seconds, then sighed. Michael, I'm not going to sit here and trash talk your wife. But this isn't normal. This isn't how people treat each other when they care. A long silence stretched between us. Jessica reached over at a red light and lightly touched my uninjured hand. I remember the way you used to talk about her. I gave a soft, dry laugh. So do I. You used to light up when her name came up, she said. Back in the day, remember that barbecue at Clay's place? You were telling everyone about the way she danced barefoot in the kitchen. That feels like someone else's life now. Jessica pulled her hand back, but left the words hanging between us. I stared out the window as we rolled through another intersection. She changed, I said. Jessica exhaled. Or maybe she just stopped pretending. That one stung. But it didn't feel like a slap. It felt like medicine. I've been feeling it for months, I admitted. The silence. The way she walks past me like I'm part of the furniture. I've tried to talk, tried to bring it up, but she shuts you down? I nodded. Jessica didn't offer a quick fix. She didn't give me a pep talk or some empty cliche. She just kept driving, her presence steady, quiet. It was exactly what I needed. Thank you, I said finally. For what? For showing up. She smiled softly. Always. And for the first time that night, the pain in my arm wasn't the sharpest thing I felt. By the time we pulled into the driveway, the neighborhood was cloaked in that kind of deep, velvet quiet only suburban Texas could offer at 2 a.m. Porch lights glowed softly on identical brick facades. Sprinklers clicked faintly in the distance. My house looked exactly as I'd left it earlier that day. Trim lawn, porch light humming, curtains drawn. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. Jessica parked in the driveway and turned off the engine. You sure you don't want me to just drop you off and go? She asked, eyeing the dark windows. I shook my head. I can't make soup with one hand. Stay for a bit? That earned a small smile. You always use soup as an excuse to keep people around. We slipped inside quietly. The moment I crossed the threshold, a familiar mix of lemon cleaner and fading lavender hit me. I eased myself onto the couch, while Jessica headed straight for the kitchen like she'd never left. She remembered where everything was. It was strange how natural it felt. I heard cupboards open and close, the quiet clink of a pot, the whir of the gas burner. Still keep the chicken broth top shelf? She called. Back right corner, I replied. I sank deeper into the cushions. The painkillers had dulled the sharpness of my arm, but the ache behind my ribs? That one was wide awake. 15 minutes later, she walked over with a steaming mug. Not the prettiest thing I've ever made, but it'll help. I took a sip, winced at the heat, then sighed. You didn't have to do this. Jessica sat on the edge of the coffee table, elbows on her knees. I know. There was something in the way she looked at me. Gentle, but piercing. Like she saw more than I wanted to say out loud. You gonna tell her I was here? She asked, voice careful. Before I could answer, the front door flung open. Ashley stumbled in, heels clicking across the hardwood, laughing into her phone as she nearly tripped on the entryway rug. Her makeup was smudged, eyes glassy, dress tight and glittering. She froze when she saw Jessica. What the hell is this? She slurred, lowering her phone. Jessica stood slowly, expression unreadable. Hey, Ashley. Ashley scoffed. You've got to be kidding me. I sat up, adjusting the sling. Ash, don't. No. Let's go ahead and talk about it, she snapped, waving a hand between us. You break your arm, and suddenly Jessica's back in the picture? That didn't take long. Jessica kept her voice calm. He called you first. You said no. Ashley stepped forward, eyes narrowing. Oh, don't play innocent. You've always had a thing for him. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Ashley snapped. Chicken soup and a walk down memory lane? I stood, slowly wincing. Ashley, stop. She came because I needed someone. You weren't there. Ashley's laugh was bitter, ugly. Wow. So I miss one hospital visit, and suddenly I'm the villain, and she's Florence freaking Nightingale? Jessica spoke before I could. No, Ashley. You didn't miss it. You refused. Ashley's face went still. You have some nerve talking to me like that in my house. It's his house too, Jessica said evenly. A beat of silence. Ashley's eyes darted to me. So what now? You need sympathy? Want me to throw myself at your feet and cry? I didn't expect anything, I said. That's kind of the problem. Ashley stared at me like she didn't recognize the person standing in front of her. Her voice lowered. You're really going to act like she's just a friend? Jessica stepped back. I should go? I looked at her. You sure? She nodded, eyes soft. Yeah, you need rest. Not more fire. Jessica left without another word. The door shut gently behind her. Ashley stood there in the middle of the room, arms crossed. You done playing victim now? She asked. I didn't answer. I just walked past her and went straight to the bedroom. Because whatever this was, it wasn't a marriage anymore. The morning light spilled through the blinds, soft and golden, but it didn't soften anything inside me. I'd been up since dawn, my arms stiff and throbbing despite the pills. I sat at the kitchen table, a half-eaten piece of toast going cold on my plate, waiting. Not out of hope, just out of duty. Ashley came downstairs around 9, wearing an old college hoodie and her hair in a messy bun. No apology. No question about how I'd slept. Just a yawn. And then the fridge opened like this was just any other Tuesday. She grabbed almond milk, poured it into a glass, then finally glanced at me. You look awful, she muttered. I didn't sleep much. She shrugged and sipped her drink, turning her back to rinse out a mug like we weren't in the middle of something that had split the night in two. I cleared my throat. Ash, we need to talk. Oh, joy. She didn't turn around. Is this going to be one of those dramatic, we need to communicate better speeches? No. This is going to be one of those we need to act like adults conversations, I said. Calm. Clear. Because last night was a lot. Ashley finally turned, arms folded. Right. You're mad that I didn't come rushing to your rescue. And then, like a sitcom from the early 2000s, Jessica shows up with soup. She showed up because I didn't have anyone else. Oh, please. She rolled her eyes. You're not helpless. You've been milking this since the second you fell, acting like you're some wounded soldier. I stared at her for a long moment. Ashley, I broke my arm. You also have a phone and access to a rideshare app. Not everything is a crisis just because it's inconvenient. That hit harder than it should have. I pushed back from the table slightly, keeping my voice even. You know what I wanted last night? Just to hear you ask if I was okay. That's it. That's all. Ashley smirked, lifting her glass again. Well, sorry. I'm not your nursemaid. Silence fell between us like glass shattering on tile. Something cracked inside me. Not loudly. Not violently. Just a clean, permanent fracture. I see, I said quietly. Oh, don't start with that tone, she said, already tired of a conversation she hadn't even participated in. You always act like the wounded party when I don't do exactly what you want. This wasn't about what I wanted. It was about what any decent person would do. Ashley turned toward the hallway. I've got a thing tonight. Courtney's birthday. I'll be back late. I didn't respond. I just watched her disappear down the hall. And then, I reached for my phone. I hadn't called Brian in a while. Not since his messy breakup last year. But when he picked up, his voice was still the same. Gruff, dependable, straight to the point. Mike, hey, I said. I've got a favor to ask. A weird one. Brian paused. Go on. Ashley's going out again tonight. Can you follow her? Just see where she goes. Who she's with. There was a beat of silence. Then, you think something's going on. I don't want to think, I said. I want to know. Brian didn't ask any more questions. Text me the time. I'm on it. I ended the call and looked out the window. The sun was bright and beautiful, but something inside me had finally gone cold. Brian pulled up to my place just after 6, his truck idling low in the driveway. He didn't bother texting, just honked once, short and sharp. I came out with a manila folder tucked under my arm and a hard knot in my stomach. He rolled the window down as I approached. Is she still inside? He asked. Yeah, I said, checking my watch. Should be heading out soon. Brian nodded, his eyes scanning the street like he'd done this 100 times. What do you want me looking for? Where she goes. Who she's with. Anything off, I said. You'll know it when you see it. Brian didn't flinch. You sure about this, Mike? Once you start down this road, I'm already on it, I said, cutting him off. Just keep your eyes open and keep me posted. He gave a small nod. You got it. As his truck rumbled off down the block, I exhaled slowly and turned toward my own car. Well, technically, Ashley's old crossover. She never drove it anymore unless she was headed to her weekend events. I kept it mostly for errands, and today, it was getting me downtown. The law office sat on the 22nd floor of a sterile glass building in the heart of Dallas. I stepped out of the elevator into silence. Cool lighting, white walls, spotless floors. The reception desk was all angles and minimalism, like it had been designed to whisper, "You're in control now." Michael Renshaw. I said to the young woman behind the desk. 10 o'clock with Mr. Chandler. She smiled politely. He's expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall on the left. When I stepped into the room, Chandler was already seated. Late 40s, neat beard, wire-frame glasses. The kind of guy who shook your hand with firm precision and didn't waste time. Divorce? He asked, getting straight to it. Not yet, I said. But I think it's where this is heading. He gestured for me to sit. Let's walk through your situation. For the next hour, I laid it out. The distance, the resentment, the hospital, the fact that I had to rely on a friend instead of my wife when I needed help. And now, I added, I have someone quietly checking on her. I need to know what I'm dealing with. Chandler didn't blink. You're not the first husband to walk through that door with a cast and a story. He walked me through the basics, how property would be divided, how fault could influence a judge's ruling, especially if neglect or emotional abandonment could be documented. I told him about the house, the finances, the way Ashley had become more like a tenant than a partner. You've been married 7 years? He asked. Just hit 8 in April. He nodded, scribbling a few notes. If you're serious about this, keep a record of everything from here on out. Dates, text messages, voicemails. If she's not being present in the marriage, we build a pattern. That's your leverage. And if she's been unfaithful? He looked up. Then it shifts in your favor. Dramatically. I leaned back in my chair, something settling inside me. Not anger. Not even relief. Just clarity. By the time I left the office, the air felt sharper. Not colder, just more defined. As I walked to the car, my phone buzzed with a message from Brian. She's not with Courtney. She's at a rooftop bar near Uptown. And she's not alone. I stared at the screen. Read the text twice. No surprise. No panic. Just a quiet, steady breath. The storm was finally taking shape. And this time, I wasn't standing in the rain without cover. If there was one thing Jessica understood better than most, it was how a story spreads. Not with sirens and flashing lights, but quietly, through whispers, screenshots, and perfectly timed silence. I didn't ask her to do anything, but she did it anyway. A few days after my visit with the lawyer, she texted me. Just so you know, people are going to start seeing Ashley for who she really is. I'm not naming names. Just letting the truth breathe. I didn't respond right away. I didn't have to. Jessica knew what she was doing. And true to her word, she never came out and said anything. Not directly. She didn't call Ashley out, didn't post some dramatic expose. That wasn't her style. She just curated a photo of the hospital wristband. A single-line caption. People show you who they are when you're at your weakest. No tags. No names. Just enough. Then came the soft murmurs in group chats, shared stories from a friend of a friend, about how Michael had broken his arm, how his wife had refused to come. The sympathy flowed instantly. Screenshots from Instagram surfaced in a mom group chat Jessica was part of. Ashley at the bachelorette party the night I was admitted to the ER, drink in hand, glitter dress, perfect smile. Time-stamped. Posted while I was waiting for an x-ray. It didn't take much. The court of public opinion doesn't wait for cross-examination. It just reacts. Within a week, I noticed the shift. Ashley had always prided herself on being the queen bee of our suburban hive. She had the Pinterest-worthy brunches, ran the neighborhood book club, even though she barely read, and posted perfectly filtered stories from yoga class and wine tastings. But suddenly, people stopped reacting. Her photos, once packed with likes and hearts, sat quiet. Stories went unanswered. Comments disappeared. Jessica said nothing to me directly, but I knew she was the spark that had started this slow burn. One night, I got a message from a mutual friend, Shannon, from 2 streets over. Hey, I didn't want to say anything, but I saw your wife out again tonight. Didn't look like a girl's night, if you know what I mean. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I didn't need confirmation anymore. What Jessica had started wasn't revenge. It wasn't about sinking Ashley. It was about shining a light. And once people saw who Ashley really was, they didn't forget it. By the weekend, I heard that the book club was meeting without her. That the couple who always invited us to backyard cookouts had accidentally left her off the group invite. Ashley didn't bring it up. Not to me. But I saw her at the kitchen island one night, scrolling through her phone with a tight, confused frown. She'd refresh. Scroll. Refresh again. And every time, her expression dropped just a little more. The world she'd curated so carefully, filtered, arranged, adored, was slipping. And not because anyone screamed, but because Jessica whispered. If you're enjoying the story, please hit the like button. The slam of the bathroom door echoed through the house like a cannon shot. I heard Ashley's heels pounding against the hardwood as she marched from room to room upstairs, muttering, sometimes full-on yelling, though I couldn't make out the words. I didn't move from the couch, just sat there in the same spot I'd been in for the last hour, one arm in a sling, the other holding a mug of half-cold tea. Then I heard it. Are you happy now? She was at the top of the stairs, voice sharp as broken glass. I didn't answer. Ashley stormed down, her phone in hand, waving it like a weapon. Her face was flushed, mascara slightly smudged, not from crying, but from whatever emotional tailspin she'd been spinning in for the past hour. She jabbed the screen toward me. You did this. I looked up slowly. Did what? Oh, don't play dumb, Michael. Don't sit there like some innocent victim in a Hallmark movie. She tossed the phone on the coffee table, too close to my injured arm, and started pacing. I glanced at the screen. Her Instagram page was still open. Comments flooded her latest post. Wow, must be nice to party while your husband's in the hospital. Unfollowing. This is sad. Real classy, Ashley. She turned, eyes burning. You told people I left you in the ER like some monster. I didn't tell anyone anything, I said, calm. Too calm. That only made her angrier. Oh really? She snapped. So people just magically found out that I was out with my friends while you were apparently sobbing in a hospital bed? I set the mug down slowly. I didn't sob. Oh, I'm sure you didn't, she sneered. Not with your little savior Jessica there to rescue you. That name again. She always brought it up like it was a knife. But the truth was, Jessica hadn't posted anything with names. Hadn't said a single word directly to anyone in Ashley's circle. But the truth didn't need a name tag to be recognized. Ashley leaned in now, her tone low and shaking. You want to destroy me because I didn't drop everything for you one night? I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't angry. She was afraid. Afraid of losing the only thing she ever truly nurtured, her image. You're doing a great job of that yourself, I said. Her breath caught. She tried to recover. You want me to feel guilty? Want me to crawl to you and beg for forgiveness? That's the fantasy, right? No, I said, standing slowly. That was never the goal. Then what is this? She barked, pointing at the screen again. I picked up her phone, handed it back to her gently. You broke something, I said. Not just my arm. You broke the part of me that waited for you to care. She flinched, but still tried to cover it. I just healed in silence, I added. Unlike you. Ashley's mouth parted, but no sound came. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. The man who wasn't raising his voice. Wasn't pleading. Wasn't broken. Just done. She stood there a few moments longer, staring, then turned and walked out the front door, phone clutched tight in her hand. She didn't slam it this time. She didn't have to, because the silence she left behind said enough. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, gold-trimmed, the kind of thing you don't get by accident. I found it wedged between the electric bill and a coupon booklet on the kitchen counter. To Michael Renshaw from the Holloway Foundation, a charity gala. Black tie. Uptown. I stood there for a moment, just staring at it. Ashley had always been the one invited to these things. She was the social one, the planner, the wine glass in hand, the fake laugh at small talk. Me? I went because I had to, because it was her thing. But this one was for me. Just me. I RSVP'd the same day. The following Saturday, I stood in front of my mirror, tying my own tie with my one good hand, clumsily looping the knot with a patience I didn't know I had. Jessica offered to come by and help, but I told her I needed to do this part alone. When I finally stepped out the front door in a charcoal gray suit, clean shave, polished shoes, I didn't just look different. I felt different. And the house behind me, silent. Ashley hadn't said much all week. She didn't ask where I was going that night. She just sat in the living room in an old sweatshirt, scrolling endlessly on her phone. I didn't offer an explanation. I simply nodded once and walked out. The gala was held in one of those glass buildings with a rooftop view that makes you remember how big Dallas really is. Strings of warm lights hung between planters filled with white roses. Waiters moved between tables with trays of champagne, and somewhere in the distance, a jazz trio played with effortless grace. I was greeted at the entrance with a smile. Mr. Renshaw, so glad you could join us. It felt strange, and yet not. People I barely knew shook my hand. A few offered compliments. One woman from the local chamber of commerce leaned in and said softly, "We heard about what happened. That couldn't have been easy." I gave a polite smile and nodded. It wasn't, but I didn't elaborate. I didn't have to. The room moved around me, full of conversations I wasn't desperate to escape. No pity, no pressure, just space. Space I hadn't had in a long time. Meanwhile, back home, Ashley sat alone in our living room. The television was on, but muted. Her wine glass sat untouched. Her phone lay in her lap, screen glowing bright as message after message went unanswered. She scrolled through her followers again, less than before. Her story from earlier that day, a filtered photo of her brunching alone, had barely 40 views. No replies. Her fingers hovered over her friend Marla's name in the chat, then hesitated. She scrolled down and tapped another conversation, Courtney, the one who'd hosted the bachelorette party. There, buried among the earlier texts, was a video. Ashley had sent it herself a week ago, drunk and laughing, camera angled low. A guy, mid-30s, tan, sharp jawline, was leaning in toward her at some rooftop lounge, whispering something in her ear while she giggled. She stared at it now, lips tight. Typed, "Who took this?" No reply. Typed again. "Did this get posted anywhere?" Still nothing. She tossed the phone on the couch cushion beside her and leaned back, staring at the ceiling like it might offer her an exit. But there was no crowd to clap for her now. No dress code, no lighting, no applause. Just the echo of what she'd let rot. And the sound of a door that hadn't slammed, but had still closed. I got home around 10. The gala had wrapped just as the jazz band was packing up, and while I'd been invited to the after party on the lower level, I declined. I didn't need more champagne. I needed clarity, and I already had it. The porch light was still on. Ashley hadn't gone to bed. That surprised me more than it should have. I opened the door slowly, my dress shoes quiet against the floor. There she was, sitting on the edge of the couch like she'd been waiting hours, hands clasped tight in her lap, eyes swollen and glossy. The TV was off. Her phone sat face down on the coffee table. She looked up at me the second I stepped in. "You look nice," she said, voice small. "Really nice." I hung my coat, loosened my tie. I didn't reply. "Michael," she said, standing. "Can we talk?" I kept moving toward the kitchen, loosening my collar. I figured we would. Her voice broke a little. "I know I've been selfish. I haven't been the kind of wife you deserve, and I haven't treated you the way I should. But I didn't know how bad things had gotten until I saw." She gestured vaguely to her phone. "Everything falling apart." Still, I said nothing. Just turned on the kitchen faucet and filled a glass with water. She followed me, slower now. I panicked, okay? I got scared. I didn't mean to ignore you, or embarrass you, or push you away. I drank quietly. She stepped closer. "But I'm here now. I want to fix it. I'm sorry, Michael. I mean it. It'll never happen again." I turned and looked at her for the first time. Her face was soft, open. She even looked younger somehow, like guilt had peeled back her defenses and left her vulnerable. But it didn't move me. "I believe you," I said calmly. She blinked. "You do?" I nodded. "I believe you didn't mean for it to go this far." Relief started to bloom in her expression. She reached out, almost touched my good arm. But I stepped past her, set the glass down, and picked up my phone. "I also believe this was never about one mistake," I added. "It's about a pattern." She paused. Her hand dropped. "Michael." I pulled up the video. The one Brian had found on a tag story. The one that had been taken the same weekend I was still sleeping in a sling on the couch, wondering if she'd ask how I was feeling. I tapped play, set it face up on the counter. The audio wasn't clear, but the visuals said enough. Her leaning in close, her hand on the man's chest. The same laugh she used to save for me. Ashley's face went pale. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "It's not about where," I replied. "It's about what it is." Her jaw clenched. "That wasn't what it looks like." I tilted my head. "Then tell me what it was." She hesitated. "He was someone I knew from years ago. We ran into each other. It wasn't planned. I had too much to drink, okay? It didn't go further than that." I waited. "I didn't sleep with him. If that's what you're thinking," she added quickly. "I swear to you, Michael. It was a dumb, meaningless thing. I was lonely. I was stupid. But it meant nothing." Her voice cracked. "Please. I know I messed up. I know I broke your trust. But I can change. I can fix this." I took the phone back, locked the screen, and slipped it into my pocket. Then I said it. You don't have to fix anything, I told her. Because this marriage is over. She blinked, like I'd spoken in another language. What? I've already spoken to a lawyer. I've already looked at the paperwork. It's done. Ashley shook her head, stepping back. No, you don't mean that. You're upset. You're trying to scare me. I'm not trying anything, I said. I'm just telling you what's real. Her voice rose now, louder, panicked. You're just going to throw everything away over a mistake? No, I said. I'm throwing everything away because I finally see it clearly. You weren't a mistake, Ashley. But staying with you would be. She was shaking now. You can't take everything, Michael. You can't. I can. I interrupted, quiet but firm. And I will. I walked past her, heading toward the hallway. I'm not doing this for revenge, I said. I'm doing it for peace. She followed me a few steps, her voice cracking again. You said you believed me. I believe you're sorry, I said, turning one last time. But that doesn't mean I have to stay. Her lip trembled, but no words came. So I left her there, in the hallway, surrounded by all the silence she used to weaponize. And now, it finally turned on her. The courtroom wasn't nearly as dramatic as I thought it would be. No thunderclap, no slamming gavels. Just cold air, a tired judge, and the final undoing of a marriage that had been dying in silence for years. Ashley sat 2 chairs down from her attorney, spine straight, jaw locked. She'd straightened her hair, wore a muted blue dress, something that whispered responsibility and remorse. But nothing in her posture felt sincere, just calculated. The judge, a woman in her 60s with no time for theatrics, reviewed the documents in silence before lifting her eyes. Mr. Renshaw, your petition lists emotional neglect, abandonment, and reputational harm resulting from your spouse's actions. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you've submitted documentation, hospital records, video evidence, and testimony from community members supporting that claim? Yes, ma'am. Ashley's lawyer tried to speak. Something about context. About public opinion being manipulated. But the judge cut him off with a hand gesture that said she'd heard enough. The evidence speaks for itself, she said flatly. Her next words landed like soft hammers. Primary ownership of the shared residence is awarded to Mr. Renshaw. Assets, including vehicles and joint accounts, will follow proportional division, but Mr. Renshaw is granted control pending closure. Ashley went still. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came. And given the nature of emotional neglect and public fallout, the judge added, spousal support is denied. Just like that. Outside, I breathed the cold air like it was the first clean breath I'd taken in months. Ashley didn't follow me. She lingered in the hallway with her lawyer, looking small for the first time in years. Later that evening, I checked her Instagram, not to gloat, just to see. She'd posted a selfie with a sad caption, starting over. Alone. Broken heart. There were no likes from her usual circle. Just one comment from someone I didn't recognize. Probably from the neighborhood. It read, figure it out yourself. The same words she'd once thrown at me, without blinking, now echoed back. Perfectly. The nurse gave me a smile as she unwrapped the last layer of gauze. Almost there, she said gently. You've been patient. I chuckled under my breath. Didn't feel that way at 3 in the morning some nights. She nodded. That's how healing works. Quiet, slow. But when it's done, it stays done. The cast slid off with a dry crackle, and for the first time in nearly 2 months, I could see my whole arm again. It looked thinner, a little pale, but it was mine. I flexed my fingers, turned my wrist. Didn't hurt, not even a little. The nurse smiled again and patted my shoulder. You're free. And I was. Not just from the cast, but from the cold weight of the last few years. I walked out of that clinic into a crisp, sunny afternoon with no obligations waiting at home. No arguments waiting behind a closed door. Just air, sky, and the sense that something ahead could finally begin. That evening, I stood at my kitchen window, watching the sun dip behind the rooftops. I scrolled down my contacts until I landed on a name I hadn't tapped in weeks, though I'd thought about it often. Jessica. My thumb hovered for a second, then pressed. She answered on the second ring, same as always. Hey Mike, she said. Everything okay? I smiled. Better than okay. Cast is off. That's amazing, she said warmly. How's it feel? Like I can finally breathe again. There was a pause. A soft one. I was wondering, I said, if you'd like to grab dinner sometime soon. Something that's not soup. Something that doesn't involve painkillers and hospital wristbands. She laughed. You asking me on a real date now, Mr. Renshaw? I smiled into the quiet. Yeah, I think I am. Another pause. Good, she said. It's about time. I looked out the window again, and for the first time in what felt like years, the view wasn't just something I endured. It was something I was ready to walk into. Not as the man who broke, but as the man who rebuilt. That was the end of my story, but I still think about one thing. Did Jessica do the right thing by quietly letting the truth about Ashley spread on its own instead of confronting her directly? Or should she have stayed out of it completely? Let me know what you think in the comments. If this story made you reflect on loyalty, boundaries, or consequences, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story.